right, looks like folks have been able to join. So thank you for joining us today. This is the James City County Community Chat number 3, part of the Engage 2045 planning process. And today we're going to be focusing on the character design guidelines and future land use map questionnaires. Just a little bit of background about what we're going to be doing today. First of all, several of you that have just joined us, thank you again for coming. You're going to be muted for the beginning portion of this community chat, just so we can provide you a little bit of overview. There'll be some presentation today, but here really quickly, we're going to be jumping into the chat portion where we give you all an opportunity to ask questions and make sure that you understand kind of fully what we're wanting to accomplish in this round of Engage 2045. For those of you that are attending today, the county wanted to thank you for doing that. There will be a prize drawing. One of you will be awarded a gift basket from Sweet Haven Lavender Farm. So that'll be a nice treat for one of you for attending today. So thanks for doing that. There are other prizes that are being awarded to folks that participate in other community chats and also completing the online questionnaires. Before I give you the overview, we did want to do a short poll to learn a little bit about what brought you to the community chat today. So we've got one question here up on the screen. What made you decide to participate today? And there are a couple of different options. You can choose as many as you please. Could be that you just learned about the process and want to learn more. Maybe you've been involved before and want to continue that. You're interested in the future of the county. You've got questions about the information in the posted questionnaires, or you want to talk with fellow residents about these important topics. So let us know what your kind of interests are that brought you here today. And our behind the scenes guru, Alex Berg, will be sharing here in just a moment the results of that so we can see what's on the minds of people chiming in today. There we go. Great. So folks that are very interested in the future of the county, that's excellent to hear. And we've got some folks that have been involved and want to continue that momentum, but also some folks that are just learning about the process. So glad to have new folks and also folks continuing to be involved. And I'm glad to see that there are folks that chimed in that want to talk with fellow residents as well. I know it's hard to do that right now, and we wanted to offer these community chats as one opportunity for engaging with folks, given the fact that we're operating during the pandemic right now. Couple of introductions. I'm Lee Ann King with Clarion Associates. I'm on the consultant team that's helping to lead the Engage 2045 effort. Tammy Rosario is the Assistant Director of James City County's Community Development Department. She's going to be one of the co-facilitators today, as well as Vlad Gavrilovic. He's a principal with EPRPC and leading the Engage 2045 effort. So you'll hear from us today. There are also several other really important project team members that are on the call today, and you'll be hearing from, answering questions. And we've all got the great historic Jamestown backdrop, or at least most of us do, so you can kind of identify us. All right, so let's jump in and just give you an overview, especially for the folks that are just chiming into Engage 2045 for the first time. So again, this is a process to update the county's comprehensive plan, and it began in the fall of 2019. And there are, as you can see here at the top, there are 5 main phases to the project. We are in phase 4, affirming direction. There are also corresponding community engagement phases to the projects, and we are in part 3. So in the first round of engagement, we conducted listening and envisioning sessions through the Summit on the Future and some online activities. And that is where we established the 5 public input priorities and also linked those to the 2019 citizen survey and got some really good kind of foundational information from the community about the direction that this plan should be taking. From there, Vlad and his team built several scenarios that were explored and tested in phase 2, as well as a look at the current comprehensive plan's goals and how those might need to be adjusted in this as part of this planning process. So again, now we're in kind of the affirming their direction phase. Deciding and affirming is our public engagement phase. This is round 3, and we have several pieces here as part of this engagement that we're really focusing on. 2 main components. The first are 3 questionnaires. So we have 3 online questionnaires. They are available in print form at several locations. If you're interested in knowing those, we'd be glad to get the information to you. And these questionnaires are the way that we're capturing feedback on really critical questions. And at this phase in the process, we're really focused on what are the specific actions and policy directions that the comprehensive plan is going to take. So this is a really critical part of the process. And we've broken these questions down into 3 questionnaires: policies and actions, character design guidelines, and the future land use map. Today, we'll be focusing on the last 2 bullets here. The community chats are an opportunity for residents like yourself to ask questions of the project team so that you feel very informed and ready to participate by answering those 3 questionnaires. Just a little bit of specifics on each of these. So again, the questionnaires are the sole way to provide feedback. So while we're having a great discussion today, this isn't a formal feedback opportunity. We really need you to go fill out those questionnaires to make sure that we get your inputs. All of these are available through the project website, and they're open through February 21st. And I'll say this a couple times today. Please, anyone that you know, friends, neighbors, colleagues, family members that care about the future of the county, we encourage you to invite them to complete these questionnaires as well. So again, community chats, this is your opportunity to ask as many questions as you want. You've got a wealth of kind of knowledge on this Zoom call today in terms of the project team, and they're here and ready to answer any questions that you have. We have previously held 2 community chats on the policies and actions questionnaire. That being said, if you have a specific question, we'd be happy to consider that here today. And then we have 2 chats for the character design guidelines and the future land use map questionnaires. Again, what we'll be focusing on today. The details for the chats are all listed on the project website. As you know from enlisting, you can set a reservation for the next chat. I will say the 4th and final chat is basically the same as what we're going to be doing today, so don't feel like you need to do both. But the recordings of all these chats are on the website, so if you know someone who's interested but maybe can't attend, they can definitely watch one of those chats afterwards. They'll be linked there. So I'm going to pull up, give me just one moment here. I'm going to pull up the website for us so we can take a look at that together. There we go. For those of you that are kind of curious about how you get to the information that we're going to be talking about today, the easiest thing to do is just go to a browser and type in Engage 2045 or Engage 2045 James City County. And it should pull up this link here, which goes straight to the Engage 2045 website. You'll see this yellow box here that pops up on community chats and questionnaires. And if you click on the Learn More button right here, it'll take you to the landing page. And here, what you'll find on this landing page is a lot of helpful information. Right off the bat, you'll see the links to the 3 questionnaires right on the website. If you don't have online access, I mentioned earlier, you can get hard copies of these questionnaires, and they're available at all of these locations here. And we also have the information about registering for the community chats or watching them if they've already been recorded. And I'm going to hand it over to Tammy to share a little bit of the information that's available for folks that might want to learn more.
Thank you, Leanne. Certainly, our hope is that your participation in today's community chat will provide you with all of the information you need to answer the questionnaires and to be comfortable with that material. But for those of you who might want a deeper dive into the topics, I'd like to highlight that under the Learn section of this page, we have a number of recorded presentations. Those recorded presentations are linked to the Planning Commission Working Group's preliminary discussion on a variety of topics. You would simply link onto one of those chapters that you're interested in, it will take you to a YouTube site. We've posted those in the chat. And the YouTube sites will take you to those Planning Commission Working Group presentations. There's community character, economic development, and the environment, just as a couple that we pulled up for you today. Each 15 to 25-minute presentation goes through some key planning influences, existing conditions and programs, and the community guidance received up to that date. The Planning Commission Working Group found that as a good foundation for discussing the issues and kicking off the review of each of those chapters. They're also going to be thinking about those and the input that you provide through this round as we discuss changes to those sections and what we are going to establish as the goals, strategies, and actions to accomplish in the coming years to make this comprehensive plan really implement the vision that you guys have told us you'd like to be James City County. We hope they're a useful resource to you. In the future, you'll be able to watch upcoming Planning Commission Working Group meetings if you want to continue to see how this evolves. And we hope that they really inform you as you go through these questionnaires and filling them out for this round of participation. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Leanne to walk you through the.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tammy. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm actually going to let Vlad share his screen and walk you through the basics of the two questionnaires. And then after he does that, we'll ask you to unmute and we'll start taking your questions. Okay, Vlad, take it away.
Thank you, Leanne, and thank you again to all of you participating today. This is really important for the future of the county, so it's great to have your participation. In a moment, we'll take your questions, but just to give you a kind of an overview, I'll click through these two surveys. Again, this is the page you get to when you click on that community chat. You have until February 21st to fill out these questionnaires, and there's 3, as Leanne said. The 2 we'll go over today are character design guidelines and future land use map. If you click on the character design guidelines, it might take a little bit to load, but yeah, there we go. This is a general overview of this questionnaire. It talks about the other questionnaires, and then it gives information about where this questionnaire fits in with our engagement process. So this is our 3rd round of engagement with the public. It tells you what round 1 and round 2 did and what we want to get from your input in this round. And then it has instructions for you. One of the things that noted here is there is a resource document which you can click on, which has a little more information on some of the questions, particularly the rural questions, as blow-ups of some of the documents. But going back to this, you will see this kind of window pop up, and the platform doing this is in the first 2 rounds is called MetroQuest. They'll walk you through a series of images and questions about those images. You can hit full screen if you want that version of it. It does take a minute to load because there's a lot of kind of images they're processing here, but be patient with it. And we'll walk through that in a minute, but just to kind of go back a second to the other questionnaire, which is the future land use map, and Leanne we'll go through the character design guidelines, future land use map, and Leanne will walk through that, and Thomas as well. But if you click on that, it has a similar kind of introduction, talks about this questionnaire, what we did in the first 2 rounds, and it gives you a little more information about what these land use designations on the future land use map are, and some instructions about how to take that. I won't go through all that right now because there's some particular features with this that Thomas and Leanne will show you how to walk through those, and you can certainly ask questions on those. So I'm going to walk through the character design guidelines questionnaire in a second. I just want to turn it back to Leanne for another poll first.
Yeah, thanks, Vlad. So before we get to your questions, we've got a second question, poll question we want to ask you, and that is, what topic are you most interested in today? Is it use of land in the community, different land use patterns or uses that you might find in different locations, retail, commercial, housing, industrial, etc.? Or is it the design of the community? Are you more interested in looking at how different developments or areas might be designed in the future? This, again, just helps us understand your thinking and kind of what you're curious about and wanting to learn more about today. So if you could complete that question, and then Alex will share with us the results from that poll here in just one moment. And while he's doing that, excuse me, for those of you that have been muted, feel free to unmute yourself, because here in just a moment, Vlad's going to jump back into that character design guidelines questionnaire, and he'll be able to take any questions that you have. You're welcome to jump in and just ask a question, or if you would prefer, you can also provide a question through the chat function. If you go to your Zoom controls, there's a little button called chat, and you'll see there's some links to various resources that have already been posted in there for your benefit. You can also post a question, and we ask you to do it to everyone if you want, so that everybody sees the questions at the same time. Let's see, Alex, you got that results for that poll? Share. Okay, use of land in the community definitely gets the majority of folks that participated today that chimed in. So glad to know that. Design of the community is on the minds of some as well. Excellent. Okay, so Vlad, I will hand it back over to you to walk through the character design guidelines questionnaire.
Thanks, Leanne. And you're unmuted, so feel free to stop me at any point and ask questions. Just want to walk you through this. This is a really fun survey questionnaire because it's very interactive. It's got all these boxes and windows that you click on. So the first window walks you through just kind of a welcome screen. There's actually these three little dots that will scroll through, or you can click on them, that just tells you information about the survey. And then when you click begin, you'll see that it starts walking you through these colored kind of windows. They take a moment to load. It gives you instructions about what you're going to be doing. You're going to be evaluating these items on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. Those of you who did our first survey, it's very similar to that. And you rate each photo based on how you feel it matches your kind of future vision of the county. More just kind of tells you a little more information about how to do that. And then there's a more about this button on all of them that gives you a little more background about whether you're on low density, medium density, etc. type of neighborhood. So what these do is there's 4 panels across the top on this one that talk about different types of neighborhoods: low, medium, high, and neighborhood commercial. And then in each one, you get to scroll through different kind of styles: modern suburb, traditional suburb, wooded suburb. And then each one say, what's your preference? How close is this to kind of what you'd like to see for the county? And I'll just click through a few more of these. Medium densities, predominantly row houses, duplexes, apartments. And you can kind of see the different styles of housing. And again, which one you prefer. Same with high density. Not so much a distinction in density as more design. And then neighborhood commercial, so that's integrated shops, community-based, neighborhood anchor, corporate styles. Take some time to kind of not only look at the photos, but understand what the descriptions are saying about this. Again, you can always click more about this to hear what is that neighborhood commercial area. And then just to go on to commercial. So that was neighborhoods. Again, what to do. Descriptions about this are similar for each one. I'm sorry, any questions? Okay. Again, feel free either in the chat function or just speak up if you have any questions as we're walking through this. So commercial is different kind of scales or types of commercial, local, regional, a mix of commercial and residential, or a mix of commercial and industrial. And in each one of these, it will kind of give you a prompt on what the image represents, what you're looking at. For example, flexible strip under commercial industrial, or craft core, kind of more warehouse maker district, craft cluster. One that I know most people have opinions about is kind of local commercial. Do you prefer this kind of linear shopping with on-street parking, kind of a main street type of commercial? Or do you prefer this kind of built around a parking lot, more a shopping center, strip center look? Or do you really prefer this pedestrian mall, you know, kind of take the commercial and put it on a pedestrian oriented street, as in Charlottesville, I think this image is. And then the final of the kind of image categories is rural and other. And this one I would particularly refer you to the resource document that I mentioned that is on the kind of initial website for this. And this document has, as I said, a little more information about this category and some images, larger scale images of what you're looking at. So let me go back to this. So basically on the rural residential, what the survey is asking is what kind of character would you like in your rural areas? You know, the rural lands of the county. The three choices are large lots, 20 or more acres, home space far apart with small farms, and there's an image of what it looked like, and a plan of kind of a section of Forge Road of what this might look like if built according to that pattern. Or 3-acre lots, which is essentially the current zoning of most of the rural areas of the county. Fewer small farms with more housing development opportunities. If you take this same section and build it out with 3-acre lots, what that might look like. Or rural clusters. That's taking the kind of same amount of density, but putting them in small lot clusters with protected, permanently protected open space around them. And that's an image of what that would look like. So that's the rural residential. And then there are questions about recreation and open space. This is what kinds of recreation you would want. Active, passive, pocket parks, central greens. And finally, there's questions about screening. And this, the whole purpose, which I should have mentioned before, is to really give some input into the development of character design guidelines. So these are going to be supplemental to the comprehensive plan, and it's going to be a set of comprehensive guidelines to guide development in the future of the county. The reason we want your input on this is so that we can help build those character design guidelines around what the public says they prefer in terms of design. So for example, here, screening, do you prefer walls, kind of native species, woodlands, hardscape, you know, basically the fixed paving elements and hardscape elements, or kind of just natural landscaping. So it's a lot to walk through, but you also really need to give us input on the wrap-up screen. And that is what we've been doing on all the input surveys to date, is give us some information about you, how long you've lived in the county, age, race, gender, your origin, and have you participated in this process before? And most importantly, submit the final questions. You can skip this if you want. It'd be great to get input about you so we can understand that we're having a representative sample of the population. And then there's some more items here that you can click on to get information.
And Vlad, I just wanted
so,
to mention, we did get a question through the chat from a S. Tisdale, and if it's okay, S. Tisdale, I think this question might be good to bring up as part of the next questionnaire, because this is really more talking about land use, what you've posed here. It's a really great question. So maybe we'll wrap up any questions that we have on the character design guidelines questionnaire, and then we can get to this one you posed in the chat.
Thank you. Are there any questions with what we've gone over here? You feel like it'll be fairly self-explanatory once you get into it? Or are you waiting for the future land use portion to ask your questions there?
Yeah, it did seem like most of the folks that had joined were interested in land use.
Okay. Well, do take the survey, though, whether it's a prime interest of yours or not. We'd love to get your input. Yeah,
and it is important to do all three. Oh, we did get a question here. Are these questionnaires per household, or can each adult participating answer one? I think is the question. Yeah, participate. So thank you, Diane. That's a great question. And so Vlad, do you want to respond to that one?
Yeah, and Tammy or Leanne, feel free to correct me or chime in. My understanding is that it's by individual. So if you have your preferences and your husband, wife, children, whatever, have different preferences, that's fine.
So any individual that cares about the future of the county is invited to participate in these questionnaires. Good question. So feel free to use the chat for those. We are looking, but you're also welcome to just pipe up. When we want to make this informal and comfortable for you, you're welcome to just speak up and ask a question if you like. Okay, Vlad. Well, if you want to pull your screen down, I can pull up the future land use map questionnaire. And Thomas Wysong, senior planner with James City County, and I are going to kind of do this one together. So Thomas, I'll let you provide the overview and I will click away for you.
Thanks, Leanne. Just trying to get unmuted there. Sorry. So as part of the comp plan update, the county is considering 27 different proposed land use applications, and these can be broken into essentially 3 categories. The first category would be those land use applications from individual property owners who are interested in proposing a change to their property. The second category would be the county-initiated applications, and many of those are the properties that the county is interested in changing to match up county-owned land with its current use for consistency, but there are some applications that are privately owned that the county has initiated. And the third category would be the county-initiated applications that have come from the Planning Commission Working Group. And those ideas which are being explored have come from the great public input that we've received through the comp plan update process so far. And we are hoping to get lots of public input on the actual proposals. So I'll start things off with JCC LU 20-001. This is the Marston Parcels is the name of this. It's up near the Toano area. And Leanne, I thought maybe in case it would be helpful, we could show them that if you are interested in providing comments on this, there's a link on the map that you can click on that will pull up a new screen. And what we're hoping you would do is go ahead and click on that top screen, and you can pick the application. So if you picked number 1, for example, it would pop up a new map, and we're not going to fill out the whole thing because we don't want to mess with any of the results. But this asks for whether or not the application is in keeping with your vision for the county. And then there's this great opportunity at the bottom to provide comments. And fortunately, I have received a number of emails this week, and our planning inbox has gotten emails as well. And I think we had a question in the chat today asking some really good questions about, hey, what's the thought process behind this? Here are some of my concerns as a citizen with regards to traffic and impacts. So this would be a great place to put in all of those written comments. And then the key is to click submit at the bottom to make sure that we get a record of that. So I just wanted to lay out that overview of the actual form before jumping back to the maps. And I'm just going to run through an overview of the location and the cases. And feel free to jump in with questions. And I'm also happy to follow up offline if you have more detailed questions about the individual applications. So moving on to the second property owner initiated application. This is the Eastern State Parcel, which is just north of Newtown. It's a pretty large parcel, and this was submitted to potentially redevelop some parts of the surplus land that the state of Virginia's, or the Commonwealth, I should say, is looking to have be privately developed. And if you move on to the third application, which is the next one, it's the same property and it's a similar idea, but it's just on a different part of the property. So those are the first three applications, and they're all in the the property owner initiated proposals. As we move on to the next one, which is LU 20-004, which I'll wait for it to load here.
Here we go.
Great. This is the first county initiated application. And this is a parcel that's located off of Richmond Road next to the Norge Elementary School. And this is really to help fix an inconsistency in the land use designation. And moving on to 20-005. This is the Stonehouse tract. So this is a large parcel in the northern part of the county that the county has initiated. And as you can see, moving on to 20-006, there are some parcels that are next to that Stonehouse tract that have also been initiated by the county to be adjusted in terms of the PSA. Moving on to 20-007. We've got Mainland Farm, which is a county-owned property that's being proposed for a land use change in terms of consistency. And we can move on to 20-008. And these are the Powhatan Creek wetlands, which are some undevelopable parcels that are also being proposed for a change by the county. And we can move on to 20-009. And again, I know I'm going through these quickly, but the hope here is just to give a broad overview and show the location. And then you all could do the questionnaire and give those detailed comments. This is 20-009. This is the JCSA Tuning Road Office and Convenience Center. This is a county-owned property that's being proposed for a consistency change. Moving on to 20-0010. We see the Brickyard Parcels. These are also in the county-initiated category. This is county-owned property that's being proposed for a change for the sake of consistency. And as we move on to 20-11, we see the Winston Terrace stream restoration. This is a property that's being considered for a change because of some environmental constraints. And this is also for consistency with land use map. We can move on to 20-0012.
And Thomas, I'm going to interrupt you for just a moment and just let the folks know that we have seen your questions in the chat. And what we're going to do is let Thomas finish his walkthrough, and then we'll jump back to those questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leanne. This is JCC LU 20-0012. This is the proposed Grove Convenience Center site. And this is also a county-initiated application for the sake of consistency with the land use map. And that brings us to 20-0013, which is the first of the Planning Commission Working Group initiated applications. And this is the parcel between Oakland Farms and Richmond Road, excuse me. This is up near Toano, and this is being proposed for a change for the staff to explore and analyze. And this was initiated by the working group. And moving on to JCC 20-0014. This is the parcel near the northwest side of the Crooker area. And this is also a parcel that was selected by the working group for consideration to be changed based on public input and some other factors. And moving on to 20-0015. We've got the parcels between the Westport Subdivision and Centerville Road. These are also parcels that were selected for consideration by the working group for staff to consider and provide analysis on. And that brings us to 20-0016. This is the Croker Interchange, which is located at the Croker Interchange. This was also an area that was selected by the working group for staff to explore and to particularly look at two parcels within the interchange to change their designation. Moving on to 20-0017. We've got the parcels across from the Windsor Mead Marketplace. These parcels were also selected for consideration by the working group, and we've received some great emails from the public expressing their opinion on this, which is so helpful to get that input. I believe we might have had a question about that earlier, which we can certainly circle back to. And that brings us to 20-0018. This is the parcel northeast of Forge Road and the Richmond Road intersection. This parcel was also selected by the working group for consideration and is located at the intersection of Forge Road and Richmond Road. Moving on to 2019. Excuse me. This is the Anderson Corner area, and these are the parcels that are adjacent to the existing mixed-use economic opportunity area. This is being selected by the working group for consideration by planning staff in the county, and that moves on to 20-0020.
Here we go.
Perfect. Gives me a chance to catch my breath. These are the parcels that are adjacent to Colonial Heritage on Richmond Road. These were also selected by the working group for consideration during the update process, which brings us to 20-21. So these are the parcel adjacent to Long Hill Road and Centerville Road near the War Hill Sports Complex. And this was also selected by the Planning Commission Working Group based on public input for consideration and review as part of the update process. And that takes us to JCC LU 20-22.
Let's see. There we go.
Excellent. These are the parcels on Old Town Road, which are across from the colonies at Williamsburg. These were also selected by the working group for consideration as part of the comp plan update. And that brings us to number 23. This is a parcel on News Road that was selected for consideration by the working group. And I do want to pause and say that if you do fill out the questionnaire, there is the opportunity to zoom in on the map. And another great question from Miss Anderson, which I will certainly get to at the end of the process. Be happy to explain the working group and their role. And thank you for zooming in. But we can move on to land use 20-24. These are the parcels across from the Recreation Center on Long Hill Road, which were also selected by the working group and are currently being evaluated. And that brings us to number 25. This is the Lake Powell Road parcel, which is close to Lake Powell Road near the winery. This is also one where we've gotten some great input from the public so far. So if you know anybody that's interested in this, we do encourage people to fill out the questionnaire and get their comments submitted there. This is located near the airport, but that brings us to number 26. These are the parcels on Ron Springs Drive. These were selected by the Planning Commission Working Group for consideration. This is down near the HRSD plant. And that brings us to number 27, which is the last application that's currently being considered and will be considered for the process. And these are the parcels that are near Colonial Heritage, located just off of Richmond Road. So that's just a very quick overview of the 27 applications that are being considered. And looks like we did get some questions while I was running through those. So happy to turn it over to Leanne and have us work through each of those, if that would be appropriate.
Yep, and Tammy and I have been talking. I think Tammy's going to be leading the the answers to the various questions that have been posed in the chat. So Tammy, I'll let you take it away. And you may be muted. I'm not sure. I can't see your face at the moment.
Oh, woes of 2021. Sorry about that. I just wanted to thank folks for being engaged and asking great questions. I'll go ahead and take the first two that are associated more with the process in general, and then I'll direct the ones that are specific to the properties to Thomas, since he has been working most directly on those. Unfortunately, we do not have Spanish language questionnaires. We didn't have the resources available for that, but we do want to be as accessible as we can. Beyond that, we do, from what I understand, have some folks who are fluent in Spanish and will help with the public in answering questions. And so if there is a particular individual who would like to have some discussion through an interpreter, I can arrange that. So please contact the planning division with anyone you know who might want that service, and we can certainly try and work through some questions that they might have or talk them through the survey. There was also a question about the Planning Commission Working Group, and we have two main teams that are responsible for helping us through the process. The first is our community participation team, who is helping to organize and oversee these public engagement opportunities that we're having today, like the community chats and the questionnaires, and making sure that these the input that you provide is really integrated into the process and to the consideration of the revised plan. That is comprised of different community members throughout the whole geography of the county, and they've been really wonderful. The second group, who we've been referring to most often during this conversation, the Planning Commission Working Group, is really a super committee of the Planning Commission. So we have all of our members of the Planning Commission, which is an advisory body to the Board of Supervisors on land use issues, as well as a community member from our community participation team. And together, those 8 individuals are going through the chapters of the comprehensive plan and discussing revisions to those, and also making these recommendations regarding our future land use map. So beyond that, I think there were 2 specific questions that we had. The first one, I believe, was about the one on News Road, application 23, if I'm remembering the number correctly. Why propose a land use change that would increase density / traffic before an impact study is done of how that change would affect quality of life for surrounding areas? So Thomas, I'll pass that back to you.
Sure, thanks, Tammy. And I do want to say that the proposed land use changes that have been coming in are based on public input, and we are evaluating them based on the public input themes currently. So it's a really good question about density and traffic, because that's one of the concerns that's been raised by the public throughout the process. And so I would say that we're just exploring the change to see how it fits in with the community vision and with that public input that we've got so far. And so one of the things that helps us evaluate a proposed change would be folks raising concerns about traffic and about congestion. And this will tie into sort of my next answer on the next question. But when we get a proposed rezoning or a site plan that's submitted, there are traffic impact studies that are done at the land use planning level for long-term policy considerations. Traffic's a consideration, but it's looking more at the broader policy than the hard data of, for example, a site plan that gets submitted with X amount of units where we can do trip generation. So it's certainly a great question about traffic impacts, and it's absolutely something the county looks at. It's just something we can look at with a little bit more detail when we have a site plan that's being proposed. So hopefully that addressed most of what you were getting at there. I mean, if not, feel free to jump back in with a question. And I'm happy to move on to the next one you had about, I think it was 20-17, if I'm remembering correctly. And it'll take me a second. I'll scroll down in the chat.
I can read it, Thomas, if that's helpful.
Sure, thank you.
It says, application LU 20-0017 is located at the intersection of Windsor Mead Way and Monticello Avenue, and the county is proposing a change from rural residential, R8, to open space / recreation / low density residential. Would the potential for very limited commercial be allowed in this area under the low density designation?
Thanks, Tammy. And that's a great question. I do want to clarify because it does get, it's a common, from the outside looking in, it's common to mix zoning with land use. So I did want to say that when the county is considering changing a future land use change, it wouldn't be changing the current uses that are permitted by right on the property. So even if the county were to change the future land use of these parcels, the zoning would actually remain the same. And so the currently permitted uses by right, the current houses that are there, no development rights would be taken away. The change in land use would affect, though, future development. So for example, if there was a future rezoning or a future special use permit that was submitted, the county would evaluate that in part based on the land use designation. And I believe in the current draft, if this were to become revised open space, I don't believe that commercial would be permitted or expected in the future. However, if it were to go to low density residential, based on the current draft language, I do think some limited commercial uses are permitted within that designation type. And I'll cap all that off by saying that the current zoning would remain the same, and the current uses that are permitted would continue to be permitted in the future. So a lot of info there, but if there's a follow-up question, happy to take that on.
And Tammy, it does look like there's a net. Go ahead.
I was going to say it may be an opportunity to go to another question here if there isn't a follow-up specific about to it. It's related to LU 20-19, mixed use. And the question is, would that be commercial or something like a shopping center?
Gotcha, and I'm just pulling this up here on my screen. So this sort of ties in, that's a great question, and this ties into the similar answer. The mixed use land use designation is broadly speaking about the types of uses that could go there and the design and the way that hopefully the county would expect it to look. So it gives that expectation. And I do believe that a commercial element would be part of it, but based on the name mixed use, the hope would be that there would be a carefully planned, thoughtful design that would incorporate walkability, some residential component, and some other commercial components. So if it was just a standalone strip commercial development, that probably wouldn't fit in with what we're looking for with the mixed use designation. And I would encourage anybody who's curious to go and look through the current comp plan to see the different standards that we have for areas in the county. And in fact, for Anderson's Corner, that is a specific area where we've written out the expectations that citizens are looking for the area.
There was, I think, a final question that I saw in the chat, and certainly we want to allow all questions to be answered. And so, again, don't forget that you can speak up, but there was one regarding LU 20-17.
Mm-hmm.
Would Tricor or another developer be able to refile their site plans for parcel LU 2017 under one of these new designations without a special use permit?
So that's a great question. And I think it speaks to the difference between the zoning ordinance and the future land use designation. So if the developer wanted to come in and do a, let's say they wanted to do a use that did require a special use permit within the existing zoning district, they would still apply for the special use permit. It's just that if we change the future land use, say from being neighborhood commercial to being open space, or from neighborhood commercial to being low density residential, we would evaluate the new proposal based on what the county is expecting via citizen input on the land use designation. So in other words, the land use sets the tone for here's what's being expected for the property, and then what's being applied for, does it match up with that? And if it doesn't, it's something that the county, from a planning perspective, probably would not support. So changing the land use designation wouldn't change the submittal process within the zoning district. And I know there's a lot there, so I'm happy to discuss offline. Any future emails, please feel free to send them my way. I can get more in the weeds if I haven't scared you off already.
This portion of our process is fairly technical, and we appreciate the questions because we want to make sure that it's as understandable to the community members as possible. Keeping in mind that the land use map and the comprehensive plan are policy documents, and while they may not impact what somebody can do with their land by law, it is something that, as the zoning ordinance and the zoning map do have that power of law. It is a guidance document that we refer to not only when different applications come in, like rezonings and special use permits that might need approval from the Board of Supervisors, but we also have a certain number of ordinances that refer back to it. And so we are constantly in either an administrative process or a legislative process trying to make sure that we're using the comprehensive plan to help us make decisions, but ultimately it is in the zoning ordinance where that power rests. So we have time for, I think, a couple more questions if there's anyone who would like to put something in the chat or to just speak up. I thought one thing that might also be helpful to reiterate from some of our previous conversation is that as staff is going through the reviews of the various land use applications with the Planning Commission Working Group members, we are blending in what the citizen comments are, but we're also reaching out to different agencies and divisions within the county to help us assess the impacts from a variety of perspectives, and that will be blended into the Planning Commission Working Group's deliberations. We've been studying what the traffic impact of different scenarios are for the county, and looking ahead at what the situation looks like in 2045 in terms of congestion levels and what projects that might mean for the county overall. So all of those topical areas are things that we're looking at and evaluating and blending into decision making through this process. How are we doing on time, Leanne?
We've got about 7 minutes. So we can go ahead and start wrapping up. But again, if you, here's a question. There's a new one from Diane.
Sure. If we have any other specific questions regarding any of the applications, can we email using the email that we provided? Absolutely. This is something that we want to assist in helping people's understanding and of the different applications. There are 27 of them, so there may not be things that you're thinking of today, but things that come up as you're looking through the materials, and we will do our best to get back to you. And I will also make a pitch for the fact that we'll be having Planning Commission Working Group meetings dedicated to talking about these applications at our March meetings. And so you can check back at our website and see the materials that we post for the Planning Commission Working Group. And we do also allow comments to be made at those meetings. Right now it's through a recorded voicemail, and we would share those with the Planning Commission Working Group members, as well as any emails that you provide on those specific ones. Thomas, is there anything that you'd like to add in as far as the process or ways that people can get more information about the applications through Permit Link?
Sure. So for the first 3 applications that we have, and well, I should say all the land use applications are currently uploaded to Permit Link. The first 3 applications have all the submittal materials from the property owners that provide a lot of detail about the proposed site, some conceptual layouts, as well as unit types and things like that. And there's also a narrative that goes along with that. So if you're curious about the first 3 and you'd be interested to see what the property owner's thinking, you could go to Permit Link and pull up the attachments tab, and you should be able to see each of the things that have been submitted. And you could read through and get a better sense of what's being proposed.
Again, those are also available at this bottom link here shown on the screen. Excellent. Well, if there are any last questions, feel free to post them in the chat or to speak up. We're more than happy to take those as we kind of round out the meeting here. Just wanted to remind you that it's a really critical opportunity to help shape your community during this round 3 of engagement, and the CPT in particular has spent a lot of time working on developing these 3 questionnaires so that we can gather really important feedback that's going to help guide what ultimately gets put into the plan. So we appreciate your interest in coming today. Looks like we've had a good crew today, and the one thing I wanted to also thank you for were your questions, because as I mentioned in the beginning, this is a recorded session, and so the responses to those questions that you pose will be available for other folks that want to watch those videos, and so that's really helpful to kind of share that information as well to them. So I mentioned before, I'm going to say this a couple times, it's really critical that we get feedback on these 3 questionnaires. So we encourage you to invite 5 people that love and care about this community and care about its future, to plug in and to fill out these 3 questionnaires as well. The more input we get, the better it's going to be in terms of the information that we have to work off of, the project team has to be building the final components of the comprehensive plan. Okay, so before we wrap up, looks like we might have one more question here. Oh, Diane's saying that you're inviting your surrounding communities through the neighborhood app and your homeowners association. That is wonderful. Thank you so much. That's a great suggestion. Thank you for raising that, Diane. That you all probably have listservs, church organizations, other community groups that you're a part of, and you're welcome to share a link to this page to those groups and encourage them to participate. That's a really great thing, and we appreciate you, Diane, for spreading the word about that. There's one final short poll that we wanted to pose to you all as we complete, and this one actually has 2 questions. The first one is, do you feel the session today has helped you understand the questionnaires? We just want to know if this was helpful. This is kind of a new thing that we've done with these community chats, and so we wanted to get your impressions. And then the second question is related to how you heard about it. The community chat, and you can click all that apply. We're wanting to know which of the different media channels are best to be sending out information through, and where most people are hearing about this from. For those that might be listening to this, or those that are already on the call, also wanted to put a plug for This Week in James City County. There's a new podcast that also has some information about these questionnaires that was just posted today. So that's another source of information about the project and the round that we're in right now, and specifically the 3 questionnaires. All right, so happy to take any final comments and questions that you have. There's a question here. Can we set up to get notified by email of your meetings? So Tammy, maybe I'll let you respond to that one.
Yes, we have a subscription to a newsletter / updates. We've been using it for bigger events rather than for individual meetings, but I think in keeping in mind the interest that the public might have on the sessions particular to the land use applications, I think we'll try and use that forum for distribution of details about those meetings through that mechanism. So I would recommend that you go up to the Stay Connected portion of the website and register there. And we'll try to be more detailed in our sending out of notifications about those particular meetings. But I'll ask Leanne also to highlight the Teams portion of the website. And there's a Planning Commission Working Group page. And you can see in the Planning Commission Working Group page, I believe we have all the dates of our meetings listed. And so you could also put those on your calendar, and there are meeting materials that are posted for each one of those about a week in advance. So that's another way of, on your side, to peer in and make sure you're getting the information that you're desiring if you don't get our email. Oh, and just as another point of information, if you happen to miss a meeting, for instance, you had something else come up and you had really planned on watching the discussion regarding some of these land use applications, as Vlad mentioned earlier, they are live streamed to YouTube and recorded. So you could go back later and view them and hear the discussion. Thank you for highlighting that, Leanne.
Sure, great. All right, well, we are at 1 o'clock now. Again, happy to take any final questions that folks might have, but this is kind of the formal ending period of our meeting today. Again, thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate your interest in this process and are thankful that you asked the good questions that you did. That was the intention of this community chat, is to make sure that you feel informed and that you understand, how these different questionnaires are going to help help us create information to develop the plan with. So if we don't have any more questions, which it looks like we don't at this point, I think we'll be wrapping up the community chat. Again, we have another community chat next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. I believe that's February 4th. So you're welcome to invite others to attend. It will be pretty much the same one as we did today. So you don't feel like you need to attend that one as well, but that is available. If you have other questions that pop up between now and then, you're more than welcome to register for that chat and join us next Thursday. So thanks everyone for attending, and hopefully one of you will be excited about winning that fun prize basket that's coming to you. All right, have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.